I just pressed the let's go live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet on this beautiful and incredible Monday. Got to make sure the tubes are connected before we get into it because, man, we got some business to attend to today, and let's make sure they're working. It looks like they are. Shout out to our friends on Rumble. Let's hit it, my friends. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Hunter Biden. He's suing the IRS. Yeah, that poor guy. He's such a victim. He has been the person receiving just criminal charges after, wait a minute, what? No, he's got one charge, and he's got a couple whistleblowers who said that this whole thing was rigged. And so now he is suing the IRS, and it's going to be a fun lawsuit, man. I can't believe he's doing it. It feels like he's flying a little close to the sun on this one, but we're going to go through the lawsuit. It is 27 pages, and we'll hit the highlights on it. They're saying that the whistleblowers really broke the law and that Hunter has been attacked and that there needs to be consequences for that. So we'll go through it. It's unbelievable, this guy. A lot of bravado. It's almost like he thinks he runs the government or something, like he always gets his way, like he never gets charged, he gets away with everything, he is basically immune. Weird. We'll also go through some of the reaction from the Oversight Committee. They had a response to this, as did the whistleblowers lawyers, the Empower Oversight team, and so we'll see what they had to say about it. Then I've got a clip from James Comer, who says, you know what's happening next? Bank accounts, all right? So if you think that this lawsuit is going to chill the Oversight Committee from continuing their work, think again, Biden, buddy boy, and that bank accounts for Hunter and for Joe are next up on the docket. So we'll see if Comer delivers, but all of that in the first segment. And I waking up on a Monday and Hunter suing the IRS. Who's he going to sue next? The DOJ? Oh, probably. All right. So we then are going to turn our attention to this guy. You remember him? This fella right here? Elvis Chan, FBI special agent. This guy, yeah. So anyways, he was supposed to show up in Congress because there was testimony that he was supposed to give, and this was all orchestrated prior to him supposed to being there. And guess what happened? He didn't show up. He was not there at all. And the what I meant to say, Judiciary Committee said that he was supposed to appear last week. They didn't show up. And so, boom, they sent out a subpoena to this guy. And this guy, we've talked a lot about, Elvis Chan, right? This was the guy who was censoring everybody from the FBI, for spreading disinformation and misinformation. And we got strikes here on YouTube for medical misinformation and election misinformation, all the crap here. Probably because of him or guys just like him who were censoring all of us during the 2020 election, and also theoretically involved in the cover-up of Hunter Biden because he was part of the hack and leak operation that was warning all the social media companies that Russians might have access to some fake laptop that actually was a real laptop. And so they were prepping all the social media companies to bury the story before it even hit. So that's the guy. Was supposed to show up. He didn't show up, and so now Jim Jordan and the Judiciary Committee have sent him a subpoena, and we always love a good subpoena going out to FBI special agents. And so we'll go through that letter over to Elvis Chan, then we'll see what Jim Jordan has to say about this entire thing, because look, it's not just the FBI, it's the DOJ. There also are problems with the IRS, which is why we've got Shapley and Ziegler and everybody. So we'll go through all of that and more. Before we turn our attention to what's happening in Trump world, we've got an interesting back and forth on this issue about Judge Chutkan and her recusal. And so we're going to spend some time on this. Last week, we really went through Trump's original filing. And remember, the way this works is it's kind of like a sandwich. So Trump files first. He's like the bun. Then what you have is Jack Smith's response, which is kind of like the meat, which is a 20-pager, and then Trump gets the last word, so he smashes the other bun right on top of this. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but we'll just go with it for now. And Trump filed his defense reply today, so that's kind of the final bun. So he's saying to them, and he gets the last word on this issue, and so we'll go through that. It's 11 pages. And bologna, yeah, bologna is the meat. Exactly right. There we go. It works. Thank you for the assist on that one. So we've got that coming up. We've got 9 pages that we've already read through. We'll just hit the highlights on the Jack Smith response, which is not too long because we've already read through that in full here. But we'll then go into the reply. And then lastly, we have Donald Trump, man, and he's been just hitting some home runs on these interviews. And I don't know if you've been following these or not, but he's really actually quite impressive. I think he's actually getting better at this. And he did a great interview with Megyn Kelly. Shout out to Megyn Kelly. And he did another great interview with, I think, the new woman over on, well, we'll see wherever she's from. So we'll go into this. Now, Trump is pushing back on this, and I'd like to see a lot more of this, like a lot. I think I love this side of Trump. Like, let's go. Come out and say Pelosi did it. She's responsible for the whole thing. They did it, not Trump. And man, he delivered that hard in this clip. And he's actually referencing the evidence that I think was key to making this Pelosi's fault, which was this letter from Mayor Muriel Bowser to Trump's people that said, I don't want National Guard. All right. So in the clip, Trump references it. He says, we were going to send 10,000 National Guard over there. We were going to have this whole thing buttoned up, but they rejected us. And so he blamed Nancy Pelosi, and then they asked Pelosi about this. So they're saying to Pelosi, hey, Trump's blaming you on this. And I hope we see a lot more of this, man. I would love to see Trump every day. Pelosi's responsible. Pelosi's responsible. Start blaming McConnell for all we care, or Schumer, right? These people who were in charge of the Senate, they were responsible for it. In charge of the House, in charge of the Capitol, they were responsible. And Stephen Sund is there to support them. So really, really good. And honestly, there was another segment here. I didn't clip it. I think maybe we'll play that for our members later. But there was another clip where Trump was just articulating his plan to like rebuild the United States as an energy powerhouse and then just flip the switch. And then we would have been, the number one provider of oil and, energy resources in the world. And he was just like, we were so close. And then COVID hit and the whole thing went off the rails. So very, very good stuff from Trump. If you're not watching him, you're missing some good stuff. Then, my friends, we will hear from you as per usual at the end of the show. I also want to call your attention to another video that we dropped today. This one came out about a few hours ago, so if you missed it, make sure you catch it. This is a sponsored video, which I'm very grateful for, so make sure you check it out. I very much appreciate it if you'd watch it. And the sponsor comes at the very tail end of the video, but we're grateful to our sponsors, and so we appreciate you watching those videos so you know that they know that you're out there and that you're watching this stuff. But it's also a great video. What we did is we broke it down. Trump mocks Jack Smith's gag order. And the last time we heard about this was last week. There is a gag order that was requested by Jack Smith. And so we broke that down in that video. And check it out. Make sure you give that a watch on YouTube. Then, my friends, before we get into anything else, want to make sure you know about our new website, robertgovea.com, where you can check out all of the daily reports. All of our videos are summarized into show reports, and so you can read through them in case you miss anything here. We also have our amazing community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we'll spend our time today after the show doing our members-only after party. For our members, we also do morning shows. We do Saturday shows. We got the best community of all time. So come check us out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and when you join up, you'll get access to our private Telegram group. And YouTube friends, it's a lot of the same stuff. You get all the same stuff. Just grab the Telegram link for the after party. Now, before we get into all the meat and potatoes on the day, let's make sure that we're healthy and fortified and nutrified and well. One way we can do that is with our friends at Field of Greens. Now, we know that we're all sick of some of these ads for weight loss pills and fad diets. It's all this stuff. But we've all been there. We've all done that. We've all seen them. We've tried them. They just don't work. But you know what does? Eating healthy, especially 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables a day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? I don't. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, specific fruits and vegetables that you won't find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor just looks at you and says, oh my goodness, you look incredible. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. So let's get you started. Very easy. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to load up your cart and enter code Robert when you check out. so you can save 15% with your goodies. Fieldofgreens.com, promo code Robert. All right. And thank you, my friends, for supporting our sponsors and all of the work that we do here. Keeps this show on the track. All right. Now, let's get to it, my friends. Hunter Biden is a victim. He's been victimized by now the IRS. In addition to the DOJ and all of these other unfair attacks from these mean Republicans, now his daddy's IRS has violated his rights. And so he's suing them because that's what he does. He's basically a big man-child who's just a giant crybaby who just pounds the table every time he's in a little bit of a bind. But why not go after the IRS? Remember, his daddy runs the IRS. Maybe he'll get a nice settlement out of this, and maybe they can leverage this into some benefit for his criminal cases now that Congress is starting to look into it. So Hunter filed a lawsuit. We'll take a look at it. Then we've got reaction from the whistleblowers. He's going to be claiming that they're all liars, essentially. They're all manipulating the data and blah, 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 breaking the law. And so we'll see what they say. James Comer is going to come out. He's got reactions. He says, look, I don't care if they're suing us this way or that way. We're going after their bank accounts, Joe's and Hunter's, and we're going to get evidence of the Venmo transactions if that's what it's going to take. So we'll go through all of it. Let's hit the highlights of the lawsuit. This is what the first son, so-called, this guy is doing. He's literally suing the IRS like a big baby. He says on 27 pages that he is going to be demanding declaratory relief and damages. He wants some money, probably for more crack and hookers. Or cocaine in the White House. Here's the complaint. It's suing the IRS, right? So this is the first son, Biden, suing his own daddy's IRS. They say plaintiff here, Hunter, by his lawyer, is now suing the IRS, seeking a redress for the following items. 1, unlawful disclosure of Hunty's tax returns in violation of the law. And of course, we're going to look at these. These are whistleblowers who made whistleblower protected disclosures to Congress. And 2, willful and intentional failure to establish safeguards over the IRS record system to make sure Hunter's confidential tax returns were protected. Hunter's tax returns are protected. So they're very upset that a whistleblower followed the whistleblower laws and blew the whistle on them, and then that they were able to see all of his criminal intent. They say Mr. Biden is the son of the president of the United States. Of course he is. This is why this is so pathetic. Could you imagine if, like, Don Jr. was suing the IRS, what they would say about this, what the media would do? They would be twisting themselves into a pretzel trying to say what a bizarre, weird situation this is. The son of the president is suing his own government, is suing the president's government. Okay. He has all the, like that's a normal family type of a thing, or what's going on here? It's just strange. He has all the same responsibilities as every other American citizen, and the IRS can and should make certain that he abides by those responsibilities. Okay, that's true. Similarly, Mr. Biden has no fewer or lesser rights than any other American citizen, and no government agency or government agent has free rein to violate his rights simply because of who he is. Again, nobody's saying that he did that. The whistleblowers went to Congress, to the House and Ways and Means Committee, and they communicated with them under the protection of the law. All right. But he says, yet the IRS and its agents have conducted themselves under a presumption that the rights that apply to every other American don't apply to Hunty Poo. This lawsuit is not about the legitimacy of the IRS investigation into Biden over the last 5 years or any decision to penalize Biden. This lawsuit is not about the proper workings of the whistleblower statute. Rather, the lawsuit is about the decision by IRS employees, namely the whistleblowers, their representatives, people in Congress, their lawyers, and others, and their disregard to intentionally publicly disclose Hunty's protected tax returns outside what is lawful. All right, so they're going after everybody now, right? They're saying that IRS employees, Gary Shapley, Joseph Ziegler, you guys are on notice, bringing them into compliance, right? Don't you dare even think about blowing the whistle. If you're a whistleblower, you're going to be in hot water. You might also be violating the law. In Congress, you're also violating the law, and lawyers who might represent the whistleblowers also might be violating the law, right? This is meant to chill people who are shining the spotlight down upon the Biden crime family. Hunter's lawyers say Hunty has cooperated fully with the IRS. He did so with the expectation that they would safeguard his information, but Hunty has learned to his detriment that is not the case. Rather, IRS agents have targeted and they've sought to embarrass Mr. Biden via public statements in which they and their representatives have disclosed confidential info. While Biden has been the victim of various leaks about the IRS, most recently because two absolute hero IRS whistleblowers who saved this entire operation, Mr. Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, he says that they and their attorneys raised the stakes with their numerous public appearances and blatantly violated the IRS because they're engaging in a campaign to publicly smear Mr. Biden, suing the IRS because the whistleblowers are pointing out that there were problems with the investigation when they were literally on the team behind the investigation. Hunty's team says this assault on Hunter's rights involved the public disclosure of his tax information in more than 20 televised and non-congressionally sanctioned interviews. So they went through and they said, oh, Shapley appeared on this one and Ziegler appeared on this one. With over 27 years of experience between them, Shapley and Ziegler knew that any person making any statement was in violation of federal tax law, right? So now they're saying their public appearances. When Shapley is on that one news station, right? They're saying, violation. Yet these IRS agents and their attorneys willfully disregarded federal law, and therefore their whistleblower status cannot hide them and protect them. They say a whistleblower is supposed to uncover government misconduct, not about a private person, which is exactly what they were doing, right? The whistleblowers, they're trying to make this like Hunter's this innocent person who has never been a government operator at all. And they're saying, well, the investigation by the government into him, what was corrupt. A whistleblower is supposed to uncover government misconduct, not the details about Hunter. Well, of course, like literally, this sentence is entirely wrong. Of course, that's exactly what they're doing. They're blowing the whistle on the government. Beginning in April, Shapley's attorneys acting on Mr. Shapley's behalf made the rounds on various news outlets, including CBS and Fox News, to publicly disclose Mr. Biden's confidential tax return information. They went beyond disclosing the existence. In fact, he alleged that Biden's IRS investigation was an example of preferential treatment in politics, improperly infecting decision makings, and Mr. Shapley had identified supposed anomalies in the process. Then, in days leading up to Shapley's testimony in front of the House, he agreed to another interview, right? They're saying, okay, that the stuff that he said to Congress was okay, but the stuff that he said to CBS is not okay. Shapley disclosed his confidential tax return info and other emails about, or other information about this stuff. They're just walking us through the timeline here, and we're not going to read all of it, but you've got May and June 2023, Shapley and Ziegler, they finally testified in front of the House Ways and Means Committee. They say here, despite explicit reminders that there would be violations here if they spoke, they did speak anyways. They say chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, Congressman Jason Smith, proceeded in their public campaign to selectively disclose certain information and to harm Mr. Biden. And so look at all these people. They aired all of this stuff. Oh man, we're not even on the list here. Oh man. So they say that a lot of these clips were aired on a number of different networks. Fox News, CBS, Megyn Kelly, John Solomon, and interviews aired on CNN, Megyn Kelly Show, and John Solomon Reports. And Watching the Watchers, hello. We've been covering this for months, man. During these interviews, Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler provided unsubstantiated and selectively chosen allegations of nefarious and potentially criminal behavior. These disclosures went beyond confirming the existence, right? So they're saying they were just talking too much. And they were disclosing unsubstantiated allegations. They say counsel for Shapley and Ziegler rejoined the media circus, and they were just disclosing new things. All right, so they're walking us through. Now we can fast forward through a lot of this. Here, New allegations. Also, talked to Jake Tapper. Also, disclosed that they recommended felony charges. So they were releasing new information about all of this. Mr. Biden, they say, disputes all of these allegations, but he suffered harm nonetheless. Oh no. Hunter has suffered reputationally and emotionally. Get your tissues out, my friends. It's about to get sad in here. Because their wrongful conduct has been staggering. This action seeks to force compliance with federal tax laws to stop the continued propagation of unsubstantiated allegations and the unlawful disclosure of Hunter's tax return information. Oh, poor Hunter. So, all right, now you see all the parties are here and the rest of this here, factual allegations. Hunter has been subjected to extraordinary scrutiny by the media. In the past year, that has escalated to unprecedented leaks by people at the IRS. The public statements began in April when they started working on the case, but despite clear warnings from Congress that they were prohibited from disclosing the contents, Shapley and Ziegler only emboldened their media campaign against Biden. And then they testified in front of the House of Representatives, and numerous media outlets, including yours truly here, all communicated about all of that. And therefore, they have broken the law. On or around, they say Shapley sent a letter, and this is how the whole thing started. This was from the whistleblowers. They said that the whistleblowers reached out and said, hey, we've been investigating Hunter, and there have been some pretty serious problems with this investigation. And again, they're walking us through the timeline, so we don't need to read all of this. You can see here. On May 26, Shapley testified before the House Ways and Means Committee. They noted that they said it was confidential, but then information from there ultimately went out. Ziegler also testified, and we'll fast forward through the rest of this and just see what they say they want. What do they want? Here. Numerous disclosures went out. Public statements on Ways and Means, John Solomon, CBS News, Fox News, CBS News, Fox News, CBS, John Solomon, the list goes on. Jake Tapper, Megyn Kelly, another one, Martha McCallum, Fox News, Caitlin Collins. Okay, here, let's just, all right, I'm feeling left out here. Here, let's put ours right here. Watching the Watchers, okay, on, I don't know, let's say from 2020 to present, okay? How about that? All right, now I feel much better. Whew, all right. These statements publicly disclosed confidential tax return information, including whether the taxpayer's return was, is, or being, or will be examined or subject to other things, and they're letting them know about the existence of a Hunter investigation. The repeated disclosures were made not in good faith, but they just misinterpreted the law, right? They're not allowed to do this stuff. And so the IRS agents were responsible for it. Therefore, we've got different counts. A breach of the Privacy Act. Hunter's taxes should not have been disclosed. So we've got, looks like 2 counts only. And then Hunter wants the following. Declaring that the IRS willfully or unlawfully disclosed Hunter's tax return information in violation of the law. They want a declaration of that so that no more of this information can ever go out again, right? They want to stop the leak. And it is awarding Mr. Biden $1,000 in damages for each and every unauthorized disclosure of his tax return information subject to the disclosure under the law. Oh no! So they're going to charge us $1,000 for this. Oh man, that was kind of an expensive bullet point, wasn't it? That's all right. We'll be here. See you when you see it. Send your bill. We'll see how that goes. IRS is an agency here, they say, and so this is something that Biden should be awarded attorney's fees for, ordering to produce Mr. Biden ordering the defendant, in this case, the IRS, to give Hunter all the documents. and ordering the IRS to formulate and implement a data security plan and award any interest and so on. And here signed, as per usual, by Abe Lowell, signed counsel for Robert Hunter Biden. All right, so you see the gist of this is IRS whistleblowers, they blew the whistle. They talked a lot about it. They didn't like the talking. They say the talking was in violation of IRS rules and that there should be $1,000 damages for each one of these. So I think it would be like, how much money, I don't know what crack's going for, but it's probably a fairly significant amount of crack. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You throw ours in there, 16 grand about. It is seemingly what he's asking for here, 16 grand in this lawsuit, plus interest, plus, damages, attorney's fees. Attorney's fees are going to be way more than $16,000. Attorney's fees will be, I don't know, tens of thousands, maybe 100 grand by the time we're through with this case. But what do they care? Somebody else is paying for it, I'm sure. So this is the lawsuit. Now, Hunter, of course, is the first son, and he's suing his daddy's own government because, man, he's just like a giant man-child who I think never grew up or something. But he's suing his daddy's own government. Now, the House Republicans have a reaction to this. They said, this is what whistleblower intimidation looks like. We're wondering now if there are going to be possible charges, or maybe they should investigate Hunter and his lawyers for trying to threaten and intimidate the whistleblowers who are protected by the law. Notice how he is not refuting anything that the whistleblowers said, which is a good point. Something that they just said, well, the information leaked, but not anything that they said was inaccurate. And so that was over from the House Republicans. We also saw that the whistleblowers responded to this, and I thought I had an Oversight link too. We'll see if we have that. This is what the whistleblowers' attorneys have said. The statement from Gary Shapley's legal team. They say, this suit against the IRS is just another frivolous smear by the Biden family attorneys trying to turn people's attention away from Hunter's own legal problems and to intimidate any current and future whistleblowers. The federal judge in Delaware who oversaw the aborted plea deal shut down similar claims against the whistleblowers after they exposed the secret backroom deal between Hunter and the DOJ. The federal judge in Delaware, Judge Norica, who already oversaw this, blew all that up already. Okay, so what I'm guessing happened here is that when the deal went sour in Delaware, and we were here when that happened, there was a conversation behind closed doors where Hunter's lawyers came in and they blasted everybody. They said, this plea deal's illegal. Your whistleblowers have already violated our client's rights, blah, blah, blah. They brought the judge in on this. They said, Judge, they've already violated our client's rights. You should dismiss all of this and so on. And she said, get out of here with that. Like, probably hard no. And so the whistleblowers are communicating that. The judge already rejected this. Neither IRS SSA supervisory special agent Gary Shapley nor his attorneys have ever released any confidential taxpayer information except through whistleblower disclosures authorized by statute. Once Congress released that testimony, like every American citizen, he has a right to discuss that public information. And so you can see this battle is heating up, and it's pretty incredible that now Hunter's lawyers are suing in the District Court of DC. Keep that in mind too, my friends. We are in the District of Columbia here, which is a very Biden-friendly jurisdiction. They love that guy for some bizarre reason. I don't know what the deal is. But anybody who challenges their reign, challenges their power, is facing an uphill battle in the District of Columbia. So, of course, he would sue there because it's a very favorable forum. He already starts, on the 5-yard line. So this is what we see there. Now, whistleblowers have reacted. James Comer is also responding to this, and he posted this in a recent interview. He says they've gotten over 20 million in payments. We're going to follow the money. And in fact, we're going to follow it
truly important inquiry
hard. We're going to take this all the way into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's bank accounts. It's going to be something that they're not letting up on yet.
Well, I think we've laid out the case, Larry. Everything you said was 100% accurate. Almost every fact that you stated wasn't known prior to us launching this investigation in January. All of those facts were learned through our investigation on the House Oversight Committee. Now this week, Speaker McCarthy granted us impeachment inquiry, and this is a very important tool in the toolbox. This will help us when we go to court to get some of these bank records. This will help the judge it was forced the judge to have to rule quicker. It also trumps executive privilege if the Bidens tried to say that anything that we were trying to get they couldn't have because of executive privilege. And it also allows us to get things like grand jury testimony. There's a precedence where when Jerry Nadler was leading the impeachment inquiry against Donald Trump, they were requesting information and they said they couldn't hand it over because of it was grand jury testimony, and the judge ruled because of the impeachment inquiry, then Nadler could then have it. So this is a tool that we needed to move forward. We're going next after two things. First of all, the bank accounts of Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, because we believe, as you've seen the arrows where we show from countries like China, Romania, Russia, Ukraine, there's arrows through these shell companies, then they end up in 9 different Biden personal bank accounts. We want to look at the personal bank accounts to see if there are any arrows beyond that to pay for things of value for Joe Biden. Then the other thing we want to use impeachment inquiry is to force these agencies to turn over correspondence. We've requested all the emails that were in the pseudonyms, and there are 5,400 of those. We know one of which pertained to Ukrainian policy, and Hunter Biden was copied on it. So these are things that we need, and I believe with this new impeachment inquiry designation, we'll be able to get them much quicker.
So I just want to
fast forward and see what else.
So it's unclear who the direct subpoena would be with. We're still evaluating that, but more than likely it'll be to the bank for the bank records. We anticipate Abby Lowell and the big expensive legal team that the Bidens have that no one's ever said who's paying for their very expensive legal fees.
Who is paying for them? That lawsuit was only asking for like $16,000 back in actual damages. $1,000 from each of the interviews and the conversation about Hunter's tax records. That letter probably cost $16,000 with these lawyers, for crying out loud.
Will fight us in court, and what their original strategy would have been would be to tie it up in court forever and run the clock out. But with this new impeachment inquiry designation, it's going to force the judge to have to move much quicker than a normal, ordinary case.
I remember you uncovered the suspicious bank accounts in the Treasury Department. Is there, I mean, that was in some sense, you know, the first major breakthrough, but are you going to do more of that? And Chairman, I want to ask you, you know, in conjunction with the suspicious bank accounts, a lot of the banks, the, you know, private commercial banks, they themselves have filed suspicious accounts. And I just wonder, are they helping you? Are they obstructing you? It sounds to me like they'd be happy to unburden themselves and show all this stuff to you.
The banks have been very helpful with the shell companies. Now we're getting into the personal Biden bank accounts. And we suspect that the lawyers have already warned the banks against handing anything over to us. But we're going to give the banks another chance, and we'll see. So I'm withholding judgment on the banks, but thus far, all the banks have been very cooperative, and thus far, 100% of the banks have turned over, after they were subpoenaed, all the information that we requested.
All right, good news. So going after the shell companies has been something that was fruitful. They've got some good information from those, but now we want the personal records, and we'll see what the banks do from there. So Congress continuing their inquiry into the financial aspects of the Biden crime family. Hunter just can't take it, man. So he's going to sue the IRS to try to snake his way out of this one as well. We'll continue to cover this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, now we've got, hey, by the way, we have an announcement. Apparently the F-35 has been found So they found the F-35, which is good news for everybody. And it doesn't look like it was it in Ukraine or was it in China? I think, it was at the bottom of a lake, found in a field, Williamsburg County, South Carolina. Okay, so rest easy. The F-35 apparently has been found. That's good news. That's good news. So, sometimes you misplace your stuff. Like sometimes I forget where my mug is. I'm like, what did I do with that thing? Is it there? Is it in my bag? Did I leave it there? It can be hard to find these things. Glad they found it. All right. Now, let's get into this one. On the day, FBI agent Elvis Chan ghosted Congress. He was supposed to be there for testimony. They had the whole thing scheduled. It was going to be a beautiful conversation, but he did not show up. You're kidding me. We know Elvis Chan. We've covered a lot of his work here. Same guy who was working with the FBI to suppress free speech in America, all in the run-up to the 2020 election, working very hard to stop the misinformation and disinformation. And I don't know if he struck our channel, but somebody did. And this was what they were doing to prepare us for safety in 2020 in the run-up to the election. But when he was supposed to show up in Congress, he did not. And the House Judiciary posted this. They said, Elvis has left the building. He may have never even shown up. I don't know. But they tell us FBI agent Elvis Chan, a key player in the federal government's censorship regime, the same guy who arguably covered up the Hunter Biden laptop, who was prepping the social media companies for the so-called Russian hack and leak operation, blah, 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 all fake, all true, was supposed to appear this morning last week for a transcribed interview before the Judiciary and the Weaponization Committee, but refused to do so at the last minute. Chan is the main link between the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force and Big Tech, FITF. Internal Facebook docs subpoenaed by Judiciary and the Weaponization Committee show that Elvis Chan lied under oath during his deposition about the ongoing lawsuit against the Biden administration for censoring Americans. And remember that a lot of the censorship had to do with the Hunter Biden laptop. It's all connected, right? There was this big web of cover-up in our bureaucracies all protecting one another. House Judiciary says you can read the full thread on the findings here, but we've read a ton about Elvis Chan here. The FBI met over 30 times with Big Tech in the lead up to the election. This guy, warning of the Russian hack and leak operation that was slated for October. And guess what? The FBI laptop did leak. The FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop and knew it was real. Just to be clear, the same FBI agents who knew that the FBI had the Hunter laptop were, quote, pre-bunking the true Hunter laptop story for months. They were warning all of the different entities, Facebook and Twitter and everybody. Oh, Putin might come and show Hunter's problems on the internet, and you have to get rid of it because it could jeopardize our candidate. The testimony was all rotten and filled with lies. And so they started a compulsory process. They said by refusing to appear, he was supposed to, the committee has no choice but to use compulsory process pursuant to a subpoena. Agent Chan must now appear for a deposition on Thursday, September 21st. So here's the deadline. On Monday, the deadline for the FBI to respond to the committee's subpoenas. Merrick Garland is supposed to show up on Wednesday. And on Thursday, Elvis Chan is supposed to show up for a depo, right? Judiciary is busy. FBI's got to respond to subpoenas. Merrick Garland's been subpoenaed to show up on Wednesday, and Elvis Chan's supposed to show up on Thursday. Okay, Congress is feeling lit, which we like. This is what they sent over to him. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Elvis Chan, of course, here's just a quick snippet. I was browsing around, remembering this guy, and look at this article. It's just bizarre to think about how they were talking before the election, right? We're just rewind the clock. Quick trip down memory lane. Rewind down to December 30th, 2019. Remember this? Before COVID hit. FBI's Elvis Chan on securing the 2020 election. Here's this guy. Going to secure our elections, America. Still stinging, listen, still stinging from efforts by foreign powers to influence 2016, which means Trump won, fake Russian collusion nonsense. The FBI is determined to keep 2020 election tamper-free. And Elvis Chan from the FBI San Francisco office shares his insight into the election defense strategy. Elvis said, "There's still a lot of work to be done. The American people can be reassured the type of work we have been doing includes trying to ensure we have clear channels of communication. We're focused on elections and following guidance of our international partners and blah, blah, blah," right? These people were responsible for rigging the whole thing. They buried the truth when the truth came out because it hurt their side. They're censors, they're cheaters, and they're technologically, bullies of other people out there in this world. And they are unconstitutional actors. So the question is, why was Elvis Chan not testifying when Congress had him on the schedule? Turns out the DOJ may have blocked it. The DOJ apparently, according to the Daily Mail, blocked the testimony of the FBI agent. He was scheduled to testify, but they pulled a last-minute maneuver at Merrick Garland, Joe Biden's DOJ, to block an FBI agent involved in the Hunter Biden investigation. The Judiciary Committee is investigating whether the Hunter laptop was downplayed as a result of Elvis Chan. Chan agreed to voluntarily appear, and agency witnesses are allowed to bring in agency counsel or other personnel, but not both. The rule is set up so that they can be more candid. But two sources with direct knowledge of the situation tell the Daily Mail that the DOJ, the Department of Justice, derailed the testimony because agency counsel also showed up on Friday morning. As a result, Chan's interview did not take place. So two lawyers showed up, not supposed to have that, and neither lawyer would leave. Now an official subpoena is expected to be issued. The FBI, so it sounds like Chan showed up. Or maybe he didn't. We don't see that actually. DOJ derailed the testimony because agency counsel also showed up, meaning it sort of implies that did Chan show up? Now an official subpoena is expected to be issued later Friday. The FBI disputed the claim that the DOJ blocked Chan from testifying, saying no, calling it a significant departure from normal procedures, and the DOJ said the committee blocked the interview, not them. So who blocked the interview? There's Hunter, of course, and we've got Elvis Chan here. Today, an FBI spokesman says today, after an FBI employee traveled across the country to voluntarily participate in an interview, he was denied the right to have his chosen legal counsel accompany him, said an FBI spokesperson. So what I'm guessing is he showed up probably with two lawyers and they said, you can only have one. And he said, I want two. And they said, you can only have one. And he said, but I want two. Nope, one. And they said, well, I'm leaving then. Upon arrival, committee staff directed the agency counsel to leave, and the interview was unable to proceed. They say this is a significant departure from normal procedures and an unnecessary escalation on the part of the agency, of Congress. The FBI employee remains willing to take part in a voluntary interview with appropriate legal representation. So it's just a technicality. He wants probably two lawyers there. And Congress said, no, you get one. The FBI recognizes the importance of oversight. So they're pounding their feet over a technicality, essentially. The spokesman also noted that more than a dozen other FBI employees have participated with no incident. DOJ said, we didn't block the interview, they did. Agent Chan chose to be represented by both agency and personal counsel. He wanted two lawyers. He went to the Capitol this morning. Instead of asking him questions, they turned him away. Last month, Jordan published excerpts of testimony, and Chan has testified previously. So he showed up with two lawyers, one from the DOJ and one on his own, and they said, no, you can't have two lawyers. You get one. Pick one. They didn't do that, so they left. My guess is, my friends, this was known, okay? They knew that this was going to happen. This was not something that they were surprised by. They're like, oh, I guess if we can show up with counsel, why don't we just bring 50 lawyers? Something like that. They didn't bring 50, they brought two. They knew they only could bring one, but they brought two. They might as well have brought 50 and then been shocked when there wasn't. What? Huh? We can't bring all 50 of our lawyers here with us? Oh, you're rejecting us, not us. No. You guys know what the rules are. This isn't, this is Congress, okay? You're testifying in Congress. They set their rules and you follow the rules. So this is what Congress has said in response to this. They say, all right, if you're not going to show up then, we are going to send you a subpoena and we'll see you very soon. They say here to Elvis Chan, coming from Jim Jordan, Committee on the Judiciary, September 15th. Hey, Agent Chan, the Committee on the Judiciary is trying to understand how Biden's administration has coerced and colluded with other companies to censor free speech in America and to develop effective legislation like how we can stop this from happening again. The committees here must understand the nature of the collusion and the coercion from the executive branch, of which the FBI is. As a preliminary liaison between the FBI and FITF, and social media companies, you, Elvis, are uniquely positioned to aid the committee's oversight. On January 17, 2023, we requested, and again on March 3rd, we requested that you voluntarily appear for a transcribed interview. The committee's investigation, along with other public reporting, have exposed how the federal government has pressured and colluded with big tech to censor America, violating the First Amendment. The First Amendment stops the government from censoring people based upon their viewpoints. And the government can't outsource this stuff to private actors. The state action doctrine says that if the state is causing another private entity to act, it's as though the state is acting. Here, there was joint participation, coercion, there was encouragement, there was intertwinement. It was all there. Numerous documents that have been made publicly available show the federal government was censoring by proxy and directly. So we got to understand how you did this. We learned that in practice, that there is evidence that appears to contradict several of your statements, Elvis. We were ready and prepared to proceed with your interview. And after we repeatedly requested you voluntarily appear, the FBI agreed to schedule your interview for September 15th. And you had full knowledge of our long-standing protocol for conducting these interviews. Then, only 3 days before your scheduled interview, you and the FBI requested special treatment to deviate from this protocol. And guess what? We denied it. We repeatedly and clearly denied it. We said, you don't get to show up with all of your lawyers. Just 1 day before your transcribed interview, Elvis, you threatened to withdraw your appearance due to this disagreement. And today you failed to appear for your interview. So you see how these stories work? The DOJ says, no, we didn't cancel it. They did. FBI says, no, we didn't. They did. They changed the game last minute, 3 days before. Congress said, no, you don't get to bring whoever you want. That's the whole point of this. They say the Constitution affords the House the authority to determine its own rules and procedures. And this is absolutely true. And we had to play this stupid game when Liz Cheney and Nancy Pelosi created H.R. 503 to create the House so-called fake select garbage oversight committee. That was supposed to have 13 members on it. It never did. It had 9. Supposed to have 5 Republicans on there. Never did. Had 2, so-called. House minority was supposed to be involved in appointing people. It didn't. It wasn't. Nancy Pelosi picked Cheney and Kinzinger. And so when that was challenged, the courts just said, what can we do about it? It's Congress, separation of powers. They can do whatever the hell they want. And guess what? Here we are again. So if Congress wants to say you get 1 lawyer when you're here in our congressional depot, whatever, that's what you get. Consistent with this authority, House committees have developed over both Democrat and Republican majorities protocols for conducting these voluntarily transcribed interviews. These protocols, which mirror the House rules, include that a witness for an interview has the choice of being represented by personal counsel or agency counsel, but not both. The FBI, the DOJ, and your personal counsel are aware of this protocol. Early in the 118th Congress, the committee notified the department about this protocol, and every other voluntary transcribed interview of FBI employees has operated under these protocols without incident. So don't tell us that you're not aware of this, because you are. And this is how it's been this entire time. The committee's right to adopt and insist on its rules is especially important. We're here. A witness's personal interests depart significantly from the institutional interests of the agency. Okay, Elvis Chan might have the interest of saving his butt, but saving his butt might mean he has to throw the FBI under the bus. Okay, so he gets to pick, basically. If we're asking about corruption at the FBI, he can bring an FBI lawyer and take the FBI line, or he can take the personal line. The committee has information that suggests you were not fully candid in your sworn deposition in federal litigation. You lied. A deposition during which you were represented by department counsel and a matter in which you face personal liability in a manner that departs from the FBI's interest. Okay, now, and also, since you're a liar now, you seriously might be in jeopardy now because you lied to us, and that might deviate from the institution of the FBI. The Supreme Court has recognized that Congress has broad powers. Pursuant to our powers, we're invoking them. Here, we are authorized to investigate anything that's a violation of the civil liberties of citizens of the United States. And so, Elvis, accordingly, please find attached a subpoena. Buddy, sincerely, your friend Jim Jordan. Sent over from the Judiciary Committee, copied to Jerry Nadler, the waddler in Congress. And this is going to be curious to see how this unfolds. We've got a lot of subpoenas going out. We're looking forward to going through them. Here is what Jim Jordan said in response to this. He was interviewed, commenting on the whole tapestry of corruption here, from David Weiss to the DOJ to the IRS to the whistleblowers. All of it's corrupt.
Special Counsel Weiss just brought charges against Hunter Biden for a single gun incident, and that has seemed to be deeply unsatisfying to Republicans, including yourself. What more are you guys looking for from him?
Well, I think that's largely an attempt to save face. Remember, there's been reporting out there that they initially weren't even going to require Hunter Biden to plead guilty to anything. And then the whistleblowers come forward, and their transcript is out there, and they're like, okay, now we're going to go from that to the sweetheart plea deal that they took to the judge that the judge declined. And after all that's when they said, oh, now we better do a special counsel. And who do they pick? They picked the guy who oversaw the 4.5-year investigation where they put together the sweetheart plea deal that the judge declined. They picked that guy, David Weiss, to be the special counsel. So at some point they go like, well, we got to do something, and let's do this. Let's indict him on the gun charge, which has nothing to do with President Biden. It's the one thing that has nothing to do with the whole business operation and the links that seem pretty obvious to most people to the president. So let's charge him with that, and let's do it 2 days after Speaker McCarthy announces that there's an impeachment inquiry that's underway. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I mean, I think anyone with common sense can say, like, we can see what's going on here. Again, all the more reason why we hope he comes and testifies, and we can ask him some pretty pointed questions.
Everybody's activating their force fields. FBI, DOJ, IRS, even Hunter's filing lawsuits now. DOJ's sending lawyers, right? Everybody is just hitting the panic button, it feels like. But Congress is continuing their investigation, and I think once some of this information really starts to compound, we're going to see some consequence here. It feels to me like there's a facade that exists, but once you start chipping away at the facade, the rest just starts to crumble. And we're watching that happen, I think, in real time. They're panicking. FBI agent Elvis Chan ghosts Congress, but he's going to get a subpoena. Already got one. We'll see if he shows up to testify and protect America from foreign intervention in our elections. We'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do. All right. And let's carry on. Now it's chutney time. Hope you're hungry. Donald Trump's defense attorneys have come out and they're slamming the prosecutors for defending Judge Chutkan. The government wants to keep the judge on the bench. They love her. She's doing a great job. After all, she's not letting Trump read the discovery and says trial in March for evidence that amounts to 10 or 11 Washington monuments is perfectly reasonable. You don't even need to read the evidence at all anyways. And so we've covered several filings here. We're going to go through and get a quick update on what's happening. But remember, Trump wants Chutkan gone, says she's been biased. He filed originally a request for her recusal. The recusal motion goes up to Judge Chutkan. She gets to review it and then decide whether she stays or goes. And so Trump filed a short memo motion, filed 9 pages, and was asking for her to recuse herself, referencing her own statements from 2 prior sentencings in which she was, in my opinion, saying Trump was already guilty. Trump, it was out free, she says. And so the government submitted their response. And so we'll take a quick look at that, hit the highlights before Trump wraps this all up with his final reply. And so when the moving party files, they go first. The non-moving party goes second. They get a response. And then Trump gets the final word in his reply. And we'll see what that says. Judge Chutkan going to issue a ruling soon enough. So this is what the motion was from the government in support of keeping Judge Chutkan. So in other words, opposition to Trump's request for recusal. They said there's no valid basis for Chutkan to disqualify herself in this proceeding. They say to support this claim that she should go, Trump cherry-picked portion from her sentencings. They picked two different sentencings. They said, no, those were taken out of context. And in both instances, the court was appropriately responding to and ultimately rejecting certain arguments. And so she's saying that they were factually accurate statements from Chutkan, and there was no improper bias at all, and that Chutkan cannot be claimed to have been biased in this case. They say Trump used the wrong standards and that all of this should be denied because it just wasn't sufficient. Now, this was the government's motion. We read through this full thing previously, so I'm not going to do that again here today. But this was submitted by Molly Gaston. And in conclusion, she says, Judge, we want you. Trump is relying on innuendo to insinuate that there's something sinister happening here in this courtroom. The judge was just doing her job when she was sentencing those other peoples and kind of ranting about Trump. The court's comments, when viewed in context, do not remotely display a deep-seated favoritism, and thus Judge Chutkan has no duty to recuse herself from this case, and Trump should be denied. Now, Trump's defense responded. They get the final word. This is 11 pages, and this is once again going to the judge, and she's going to decide whether she's biased or not in her courtroom. And I'm sure she's going to give herself an A+ on this one. But here's what this says. United States of America versus Trump, a reply in support of Trump's motion for recusal. Trump's team writing. Your Honor, every defendant in the United States has a right to a trial by an impartial judge who has not prejudged his guilt or innocence. Judge Chutkan's strongly stated suggestions that President Trump should be charged and imprisoned defy this core principle, and they are sufficient to permit the average person to question her impartiality. Therefore, Your Honor, Chutkan, Judge, recusal of you is mandatory. Because our system of justice is based on the reality and the appearance of fairness, recusal is required wherever, quote, impartiality might reasonably be questioned. That's the standard according to U.S. law, 28 U.S. Code 455A. Such is the case here. Chutkan's statements point to the unmistakable conclusion that the appearance of prejudgment, her bias, will infect every aspect of this case and cause the public, us, to rightly question the very legitimacy of these historic proceedings, as we're already doing. The prosecution, for its part, does not seriously dispute that Judge Chutkan made her disqualifying statements, that she was referring to President Trump, or that reasonable observers might understand her statements to be a clear prejudgment of guilt. In other words, we know that Chutkan was talking about Trump. She didn't use his name, but we know that's who she was talking about. She's saying that they're not disputing that. And we're also not disputing the fact that she said something like that. And they're also saying that they're not disputing the fact that a third person might interpret them as being biased. Instead, the prosecution argues that a judge may freely and publicly state that uncharged individuals, like kind of how crazy this is, including individuals who may later appear before her, should be charged so long as she does so in a judicial proceeding. So in other words, the judge can say whatever she wants. Why? Because she's in the court of law. It's like as long as you're in the building, you can do anything because I'm in a courtroom. So if I say Donald Trump should be imprisoned and executed, then she can do that. They say that position is ludicrous and contrary to the law. Obviously, that's true. The law requires recusal whenever a judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. There it is again. This includes occasions, as here, where a judge's statements in unrelated matters, like when Trump was not before Judge Chutkan, when it will likely undermine the public confidence in the judge's ability and willingness to provide the defendant with the presumption of innocence that is guaranteed by the Constitution and fundamental to a fair trial. How could we believe there's a presumption of innocence when Judge Chutkan historically, in prior sentencings, has said there's still somebody out walking free, referring to Trump? Moreover, although the judge's opinions are entitled to some deference when based on a judicial source, the statements here have no such origin. Chutkan made clear that her opinion on potential charges against Trump was just that, an opinion. She said that, and not just a judicial finding of fact based on a briefing and evidence, okay? In other words, this wasn't part of some other determination that she needed to make. Okay, she didn't have to come to a conclusion like, well, this defendant did this and Trump was involved in this and it was a conclusion, this is the thing. It's not like a finding of fact like I decide that this person is qualified as an expert or something. This is just her opining. It's not even connected to the case. It's just her making an opinion. This opinion was completely irrelevant to any issue before her. Because of the context of the statements and their obvious meaning, no reasonable person would believe that Judge Chutkan, based on her statements or based those statements upon anything other than extrajudicial information. She wasn't making statements about Trump's innocence or guilt based on anything before her. And the prosecution doesn't even deny that. Therefore, they say accordingly to the plain text of the law, just read the text. You don't need all this other case law. Judge Chutkan should recuse herself. They go into further argument here. Good stuff. They say intrajudicial statements are not intrajudicial sources. And what the government was saying in their original filing was that this was inside the courtroom. Okay, she was talking to a defendant in a sentencing case. And so she's commenting about the conduct and she's allowed to say that. And they said, what the government was doing is claiming that was a source under case law, but they're saying that's not true at all. It's a statement. So instead of addressing how the public might perceive Chutkan's statements, the prosecution disingenuously argues the following. They say there is a higher standard for recusal based on intrajudicial statements. So the prosecutor went through and they did not like the standard, right? The standard that we said that exists under the law is quite low. You might reasonably perceive. And so they said, oh man, that's pretty low. Okay, basically, yeah, she seems pretty biased here. Many people might reasonably perceive that she's biased. So I got to go find some case law that tries to elevate that, to make it harder to satisfy. So they said that there is a higher standard, and they referenced that in their case filing. Now, the defense says this is incorrect. In other words, your case law is bad. Your standard is bad. Although the Supreme Court has held that opinions a judge, quote, properly and necessarily acquires in the course of the proceedings are less likely to require a recusal, it does not follow that a higher standard applies to all intrajudicial statements. So it might happen in some, but it's not mandatory for all. What matters is the source of the judge's statements, not where she made them. Moreover, the law recognizes that under all circumstances, statements that reveal a high degree of favoritism or antagonism require recusal. The public could perceive nothing more antagonistic to a defendant's rights than a judicial opinion prejudging the core issue of guilt or innocence. The cases that the government cites, this is Trump's lawyer, they reaffirm the position. Her cases support Trump's arguments, and they actually support recusal, and they go through and they are giving us some emphasis. And this is all case law that they're referencing. The separation here makes sense. A judge who presides at a trial may, upon completion of the evidence, be exceedingly ill-disposed towards the defendant. But where that ill disposition does not arise from the defendant's trial or from the functions otherwise necessary to complete the judge's tasks, The statements indicating prejudgment and bias require recusal. Okay, so if Judge Chutkan had heard evidence about Trump and had come to a conclusion about that in trial based on facts that were presented to her, she could have whatever opinion she wants because she got that opinion from evidence in court. So you can see that, right? If a judge watches, a child abuse case and it's a horrific, disgusting thing as they are, you take a look at that and the judge says, I feel disgusted towards this person. That's fine. You're allowed to do that because you learned about it in trial. But if you're sitting there and you're disgusted about a person because you heard something else outside of trial, that's bad evidence. Okay, that is evidence that is not subject to cross-examination. It is fake news. It is whatever you want to call it, but it's evidence outside the court. And if that has prejudged you, if you have become biased because of that external information, you got to go. They say here the disqualifying statements are extrajudicial, by the way. Here, like many Americans, Chutkan watches the news, probably MSNBC, and is otherwise exposed to information that helps her form opinions. Therefore, it's not surprising that the prosecution points to no circumstances whatsoever supporting their arguments that the disqualifying statements from Chutkan are intrajudicially sourced. They also fail to establish that Chutkan has any judicial basis for her repeated suggestion that Trump should be charged. What's her opinion on that? Does she have evidence? Is she a prosecutor? There's no basis for it. Respectfully, Chutkan had none. Unlike Justice Scalia's hypotheticals, Chutkan did not previously preside at a trial concerning Trump. So there is simply no judicial basis for her statements. There's no source for it. She's got no basis for it. Nonetheless, in a desperate effort to avoid a mandated recusal, meaning Judge Chutkan has to go, the prosecution government, they quote a handful of sentencing submissions from other cases that never briefed, let alone resolved the question of Trump's culpability. Okay, so they referenced a bunch of other cases where there's other statements. That's fine. It has nothing to do with Trump. At most, certain defendants stated that Trump has some undefined responsibility. These are self-serving and irrelevant statements. There are hardly any sort of judicial information that a court could rely on when forming an opinion. So the judge hearing from these people being sentenced doesn't suddenly give her information about Donald Trump. Here, the statements stand in marked contrast to other types of statements which are necessary that are required in the course of the case. So the defense continues, they say, unable to identify any proceeding where Chutkan could have formed an actual legitimate judicial opinion about Trump, the government instead misleadingly argues that Trump has not established the standard. They're wrong. Here's why. First, the statements themselves from Judge Chutkan point to the inescapable conclusion that she formed her opinion from external sources. Here's what she said. Chutkan, I have my opinions, but they are not relevant. It makes it clear that her opinions are personal, aren't they? Since they're not relevant to this proceeding. And they're not judicial conclusions that are properly and necessarily formed in connection with the judicial duties. Because if they were formed in connection with the duties, guess what? They would probably be relevant, wouldn't they? Because they'd be relevant to what was happening in the courtroom, which would have been about Trump. Obviously, it wasn't. Further, Judge Chutkan directly contradicted the prosecution's position here when she stated on the record the following, quote, the issue of who has or has not been charged is not before me. That's right. You're exactly right about that, Judge. It's not before you, so why are you commenting on it? Similarly, Chutkan's statement that President Trump, quote, remains free to this day had no factual or legal relevance to the matter before her. The conclusion was formed, according to Chutkan, based on unspecified, quote, videotapes and footage that the prosecution has not established were in evidence and appear not to be. She says, I see the videotapes, the judge. I see the footage of the flags and the signs the people were carrying and the hats that they were wearing and the garb. Were those on the record in the Priola case? Did they get those submitted? I thought she took a plea deal. So if they're not in the record, what did the judge see? What did she see there? Why did she make those statements in the Priola case if the flags and the signs and the garbs were not even in evidence in the Priola case. It's because the judge is making decisions and opinions based on external evidence. So if that's true, they could hardly support a conclusion that Trump should be charged because that evidence is not in front of the court. Second, the prosecution offers up only rank speculation that Chutkan's statements have come from knowledge and experience that were gained on the bench. That's a fun phrase. There is absolutely no factual basis for that guess, says Trump's lawyers. Amazing. What does that even mean? How do you quantify knowledge and experience and then just say that she gets to say whatever she wants because she's gained knowledge and experience on the bench? Okay. Nowhere does the prosecution identify any such, quote, you see he's mocking her now, knowledge and experience, whatever that means. President Trump was neither a witness, a defendant, nor an alleged co-conspirator in any prior case before this court, making it impossible for Chutkan to be exposed to judicially based information that led her to make the statement she said. She couldn't have made the statements based on any evidence that was before her. That's how we know she got it elsewhere. Although Chutkan had to explain the reasons for her sentences, the comments about President Trump were entirely gratuitous and unnecessary because she had to make herself feel better. Further, given the existence of a grand jury and the political environment in D.C., it was conceivable that Trump might appear before her one day, resulting in the appearance of prejudgment. She should have known better. And third, since none of the sentencing memoranda could have provided a basis for her statements, even the people being sentenced, they were not in evidence. They're just sentencing memos. They had no connection to charging decisions in the cases. And so attorney advocacy in unrelated matters can hardly give an experienced judicial officer the basis to conclude that another individual should be charged in the matter. So saying, look, all these people they've already been convicted, right? They've already pled guilty. Now they're just being sentenced. So in the sentencing proceeding, a lot of people are going to be pointing their fingers at everybody else. Of course, they're going to be blaming Trump. Everybody's blaming Trump. Judge, give me leniency. Trump did this. He's responsible for it. But that's not evidence. That's not facts. And the judge knows this is a sentencing proceeding. And this is not evidence that has been submitted in, a trial or an evidentiary proceeding in any way. It's just people asking for mercy, essentially, and her just throwing them right in the gulags with everybody else. So they say, in sum, the events of January 6th have been the subject of pervasive news coverage, especially in D.C. No reasonable person could conclude that Chutkan's statements were based on information connected to judicial proceedings, rather than upon the news or other outside extrajudicial sources. Although the court statements may have been intrajudicial, meaning inside a courtroom, the basis for those statements was undoubtedly extrajudicial, came outside the court. Saying here that her statements do show prejudgment. They say here, consistent with any presumption of innocence, an impartial court would ordinarily avoid stating any opinion about a third party's guilt until they've had an opportunity to present a defense. But Chutkan couldn't help herself. They had to make these things known, right? They just can't live with it without it. They say here her statements are biased as an intrajudicial source doctrine does not apply, so that standard drops back lower. Chutkan should recuse herself if the statements are sufficient to permit. And you can ask yourself this: is what she said, if you had to mark yes or no, are they sufficient to permit the average citizen reasonably to question her impartiality? That's it. That's like a very simple test. Sometimes legal tests are very complicated with factors and totalities of this and all the things. That's it. And that is referencing a federal case. On this issue, the prosecution provides no serious argument, nor can it. Of course you can. A sentencing judge does not call out a non-party who remains free to this day. Okay, that's an opinion, except to unconditionally express a strongly held opinion that the person, in this case Trump, should be charged. Similarly, Chutkan's comments about a defendant who, quote, made a very good point about Trump not being charged must lead the public to conclude that Chutkan thought Trump should be charged. So if you have the plain meaning of what she said, The prosecution argues that she was only making an uncontroversial fact or legal statement. But government cannot escape the conclusion that the average informed observer knows what she said. Chutkan already made up her mind and prejudged Trump. Similarly, the government also cannot ignore the plain meaning of the statement simply because the obvious meaning is implied rather than it's stated directly. So they're saying, well, she didn't say his name specifically. It's like, well, no, there's other case law that shows otherwise. Although an opinion of guilt was not stated literally, other statements about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed were disqualifying. And they talk about the presumption of recusal. Here, the government is attempting to conflate the standards in arguing that Trump has not met his burden. However, the evidence here only needs to meet a clear and convincing standard. It's on the record and it's undisputable. Judge Chutkan made the statements herself. They say the appearance of partiality here, Judge Chutkan being biased, undermines the very legitimacy of this case, if there is any left. The core value at issue here is whether the public is going to accept the proceedings in D.C. against Trump as legitimate. I doubt it. And instead view them as politically motivated by the Biden administration to take out its most significant political opponent in a presidential campaign. The opponent who, by the way, is not only free to this day. Oh, man, Judge Chutkan is not going to like that. Oh, man. But has a strong lead in the polls. Woo! That's pretty spicy there from these defense attorneys. Okay, so Chutkan said, I can't believe Donald Trump is still free to this day. He's free. You're going to prison, but that man is free to this day. So the defense attorney says, hey, yeah, guess what? Not only is he, by the way, not only free, but he's also leading in the polls. Oh, what do you think about that, Chutkan? So rather than concede, as it should, that justice requires recusal, the prosecution instead ignores that this whole purpose of this rule is to promote confidence in the judiciary. This is not insignificant, okay? It is the entire consideration. It's not a question. Like, if it's even close, you should boot the judge, because that's the point, is we want impartial judges, completely impartial. No system of justice can survive if its citizens lose faith in it, which is why we've been screaming here about what a catastrophe 4 indictments of your political opponents are, because it's the legitimacy of the entire justice system is just evaporating every day. Because here they say, these proceedings are indeed historic. The public interest is not in the perception of a rush to judgment or a show trial contaminated by the appearance of a partial presiding judge, but in a fair proceeding, guaranteeing fundamental human and constitutional rights. Anything less will rightly call into question the very legitimacy of these proceedings and cause irreparable damage to our judicial system for generations to come. The public must have confidence that President Trump's constitutional rights are being protected by an unbiased judicial officer. No president is king, but every president is a United States citizen entitled to the protections and rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, Chutkan, this court, you, should overrule the government's objections and grant our motion and ensure the court is fully apprised on this crucial motion to make sure that you understand our position on this. President Trump respectfully requests a court schedule a hearing on this at the earliest opportunity. Outstanding motion, very thorough, and I think exactly what they needed to do. Reestablish the standard, reestablish the test. The test is not what the government said. The rule is about impartiality. We want to have unbiased judges, otherwise the system doesn't work. I don't think that they really care about that. They just want the conviction. They don't care if it's a legitimate conviction. They just want a conviction. But the whole takeaway on this is that Judge Chutkan has to review this. And they're saying that her statements are clearly disqualifying. She's the person who's going to make that decision. Signed off on here by John Lauro, submitted into the D.C. court right in front of Judge Chutkan, And of course, that is going to be the final say on this. Judge Chutkan will come out. We'll get a ruling on that when it drops. I do hope you join us when it does, as we continue to cover, my friends. And thank you for liking this video, for sharing it with a friend, for checking out robertgovea.com, signing up for our daily newsletter, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. Yeah, we'll see if we get another judge. I'm not so sure about that one. But we've got one final segment, my friends, before we jump into your questions and your comments and your very generous donos. Thank you so much for sending those in. We've got one final one to go. Donald Trump is on it. Let's start that again. Donald Trump hitting the airwaves, now fighting back against the claims made against him on January 6th, saying that Nancy Pelosi was the person responsible for the entire ordeal. And I'm very excited that we're hearing more of this type of talk from him, because he's right. The congressional building, the Capitol building, we've covered a lot here. The different people who were in charge of it, the Senate Sergeant at Arms, the House Sergeant at Arms, Pelosi, Stephen Son, all these people, all responsible for security of a building, one of the most important buildings on that day. Either they are grossly incompetent and allowed this to happen, or they wanted it to happen. And so Trump is now hitting back hard, and I'm very happy to see it. Pelosi is responding to this. When they asked her, did you do all this? She says, no, it's all Trump's fault. But we have the letter that Trump references in this interview talking about Muriel Bowser and Muriel Bowser rejecting the 10,000 troops that Trump wanted to send on January 6th. Here's the exchange.
I want to know who you called
By the way,
on that day.
Nancy Pelosi. I don't have. Why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under attack?
I'm not going to tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that,
but
and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have the authority that
the
you
police
have as
testified
commander-in-chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her. Capitol Police, great people.
Stephen Son.
They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as commander-in-chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have as commander-in-chief?
She has authority over the Capitol.
Why didn't you send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance.
We have the letter.
And she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just so you know.
Let me just
let me ask you about pardons, Mr. President.
The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking about
Capitol
the day
Police,
of,
wait a minute.
Get it.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Mr. President, you're the president, though. You have
her.
authorities that no one else has as the commander-in-chief. Do you think you showed leadership on that day?
Yes, absolutely, I did.
Okay.
Absolutely, I did. Great interview. Great. Look at her face. She's not even happy about it, because this is what we need to see more of. On offense, more Trump offense. He's not responsible for this. They're responsible for, it's their building. They're in charge, the Senate Sergeant at Arms, the House Sergeant at Arms. Stephen Son says there was all sorts of problems with this. And Trump is absolutely right. The facts are on his side. We have the letter right here. This is what was sent from, guess who? Muriel Bowser. Guess what date this was? January 5th. We've read this letter. I can't even tell you how many times here on this channel. I love doing it every time. This one from the District of Columbia to the Honorable Jeffrey Rosen, Ryan McCarthy. This was acting United States Attorney General and Secretary of the Army at the Pentagon. Also to the Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller. These are all Trump's people at the time. This is the mayor of D.C. Says, "Dear all of you, as the law enforcement agency charged with protecting residents and visitors, The Metro PD is prepared for this week's activities on January 5th. Sent. Who signed off on this? Mayor Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C. Metro PD, the same people that we heard a lot of complaints of after the fact, has coordinated with its federal partners and the Park Police, U.S. Capitol Police, and the Secret Service, all of whom have regularly uniformed personnel protecting federal assets. This week, the Metro PD has additional logistical support of unarmed members of the D.C. National Guard who will work with the direction under MPD. The District of Columbia government has not requested personnel from any other federal law enforcement agencies. And to avoid confusion, we ask that any request for additional assistance be coordinated using the same procedures and process. We are mindful that in 2020, MPD was expected to perform demanding tasks with large crowds while working around unidentifiable personnel in DC without proper coordination. Unidentifiable personnel in many cases cause confusion, and it could become a national security threat if we can't decipher the groups. So here, to be clear, Muriel Bowser, to be clear, the District of Columbia is not requesting other federal law enforcement personnel and discourages any additional deployment without immediate notification to and consultation with MPD if such plans are underway. We discourage anything else. The protection of persons or property is our utmost concern. MPD is well trained and we're prepared to lead law enforcement and the response to allow for the peaceful demonstration in DC. Right? Letter from Mayor Muriel Bowser to the Acting Attorney General, to the Secretary of Defense, to the Secretary of Army at the Pentagon, all discussing National Guard. So why was that rejected? I don't know. Pretty simple. They could have just sent them over. We got it all handled. So Trump's people were ready to go, but they rejected it. Now here's Nancy Pelosi explaining that Trump is making this all up. It's all projection. She didn't do anything wrong, even though she was standing there with her daughter filming the whole thing. And we've got footage of her saying, I've been waiting for this to happen. I've been waiting for this to happen. And her daughter's filming her like some sort of a documentary.
All right. First things first, before we talk about your run for re-election, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, on Meet the Press, says this, and I'm quoting you directly, him directly. Nancy Pelosi is responsible for January 6th. He is blaming you for the attack on the Capitol that he instigated. Your response?
Well, the former occupant of the White House has always been about projection. He knows he's responsible for that, so he projects it onto others.
It was your house.
His instigation of an insurrection,
had a hard
an
time
assault
on
our Constitution, the day we were supposed to approve and we did, the work of the Electoral College, the results of the Electoral College, the assault on the Capitol building, the assault on the Constitution, the assault on our democracy. Shame on him. However, he always projects. Now, he used to say, well, she turned down my troops. No, we begged him. Chuck Schumer and I begged him to send the troops again and again. His Secretary of the Army, McCarthy, another McCarthy, and acting Secretary of Defense just made it, oh, there are too many obstacles. It's bureaucratic. It's this. We can't do it. They know their exposure, so they project.
And so he says also in that interview, Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers.
Yeah, well, these Trumpites were attacking the Capitol, fighting the police, threatening my life and the life of the vice president. We're turning down the troops. I mean, there's a sickness here. There has to be an intervention, and that intervention has to be the election, which we have to win. And that's one of the reasons I'm running again, to fight for our democracy, which is at stake if he's on the ballot.
Well, let's talk about why. I was going to ask you, why are you?
Yeah, why are you running again, since your city's a dumpster fire? All right, well, that's Nancy Pelosi. She was having a little bit of a hard time there, choking through the insurrection. No, he definitely committed the insurrection, and he's just projecting through the entire thing. Strange, because I think she knows, man. It's one of two things. they knew the intelligence was there. They knew a bunch of people were going to be there. They either are more incompetent than we could even fathom, and I don't think so, or they wanted it to happen. And Trump is absolutely right. I hope he continues to do this. I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see them pointing the finger at all the Democrats, Chuck Schumer too, Republicans too. Why were the failures at the Capitol? Why did they happen? He should defend his record and point the finger at the people who dropped the ball on it or allowed it to happen. We'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and liking and sharing this with a friend and going to robertgovea.com, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. Reminder that if you're looking for some more stuff to watch, we posted this video earlier today before this show. So if you're looking for an update on the gag order request, make sure you go check that video out. Please, would appreciate a nice click over there, supporting the sponsors, which help keep us here. And so check them out. That's dropped on YouTube. So check that one on YouTube. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say. Let's check it out. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. I saw some great donos come in from our friends on YouTube, our friends on the Rumble. And let's see who is in the house on this lovely day. It's a beautiful Monday, fresh new week, fresh start to the week. We've got AI is a new supporter in the house. Welcome to AI in the house as a supporter. And hey, if you're a YouTube member, be sure to grab the Telegram link so you can join us in the after party after the show. Don't Mind Me says, hit that like button. VP's at game night, so let's party, baby. Hey, so VP's out of here. Vienticus Prime, he's on game night, so that means, you know, like dad's home, so we can go a little wild out there. Good to see you. Don't Mind Me in the house. All right, let's see who else we got. Voice of the People's here. What's up, Voice? Thank you for bringing in 10 new membos. We've got Po Boy. We got Frezio. Jake Miller's here. Dorothy D. Oh, my goodness. I skipped out of there. Mary Paquette. Pope Rackets touched me. Oh, no, not again. Harlan R. Andy M. and Starlet S. along with Tyrannus Cygnus in the house. Good to see you. Thank you, Voice of the People, for bringing in 10 new membos into our amazing community. And YouTube members, will see you in the after party after the show. Thanks, Voice. We've got this one from MAGA Hat Stays, says, breaking. Marines order the grounding of all jets worldwide over the missing F-35, according to a report. Wild story. Yeah, sometimes, you know, sometimes I forget where my keys are too. You know, it's kind of a problem. But thank you, MAGA Hat. We got F1 is here. F1, what's up, F1? Sending in a nice dono. I appreciate you sending that one in. No question on that one, but your first one on our channel. Very grateful to have you here. Thanks for stopping by and for watching us here with us, F1. We've got this one from MAGA Hat Stays. Didn't you hear Trump made 11 false or misleading statements in his interview? Valerie Jarrett's daughter did a whole thing after the interview. Did they fact check him? Oh, that's good. Who fact checked him? Valerie Jarrett? That's good. Maybe they should bring Obama too. Here's one from MAGA Hat Stay. Says the interviews are going well. Looks like Trump is way up in the polls. 72 cents. His interviews have been good. It's been pretty good. It's been fun to watch, actually. Also, here, in case they don't actually find the plane, you know, enroll your kids on this. You know, if they're running around out there at school with their milk cartons, make sure they're searching for the plane. It's $80 million. It'd be a nice find. Mark Owens says, bring back the chain gang. Let them do some manual labor for life. The people who break the law. We had chain gangs in Arizona for a long time. They'd be out on the streets picking stuff up. Sheriff Joe Arpaio was behind that one. Good to see you, Mark. Thanks for being a membo. We got another one from F. Juan is in the house. F. Juan in the house. Thank you, F. Juan in the house for another dono. 51K says, can Shapley argue that the public disclosure ensures one's safety from possible harm? Well, I'm not sure. Are you saying, can Shapley say to Hunter that the public disclosure protects Hunter? Or are you saying that Shapley discloses it so it eliminates the harm? Good question, 51K. We've got another one coming in here from Voice. Says, They leaked Trump's tax returns. Again, they set the precedent for this. Too bad, don't know, don't care. Too bad, don't know, don't care. And that is from Voice talking about Hunter. Yeah, I'm not real sympathetic for Hunter either. That's for sure. Not too worried about him. Former says, here's my buck to assist in giving it to Hunter. We got MAGA Hat says, breaking. The missing F-35 has allegedly been found in a field in Williamsburg County, South Carolina. Rest easy, my friend. Whew, that's good. Yeah, the what's it called? The Babylon Bee had a good one. They were saying somebody was out with their key fob trying to find the F-35. Hear it? Do you hear it? Hit it again. Where was that? Hit it again. Where is it? It's around the corner. Let's go get it for the F-35. Where is it? I thought we parked on the 3rd floor. Okay, thanks, MAGA Hat. We've got this one. Says Speaker McCarthy says he will release the tapes. Pelosi's freaking out. It's about to go down. We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath on McCarthy. MAGA Hat, another one, says the Wall Street Journal, following ties between Joe Biden and Merrick Garland deteriorate. Things are getting distant between the two of them. Yes. Well, he's probably mad that he charged his son. He couldn't believe it. MAGA Hat says, unfortunately, the Secretary of Defense has transformed our armed forces inward to look for mythical white male domestic terrorists, so we don't have much time to find a lost aircraft. Don't have time to fight a lost aircraft. MAGA Hat says if you voted for Biden, stay back 500 feet. Rocky says, cheers to Jimmy Jordan. Sometimes I take him too much for granted. Thanks for your efforts now and over the years, Jim. Hang in there. We got your back. Yeah, Jim Jordan's a fighter. No doubt. He's a fighter, and he just keeps grinding away. Hey, we got a very nice one from Jack Mack. Thank you, Jack. Jack Mack in the house. Very nice of you. Says, I just can't believe that the judge is the one who decides if she should be recused. That's problematic and lends itself to corruption and unethical actions. She chose to make statements publicly that reflect her biases. Great stuff. But Rob, I totally agree with you, Jack. It's a weird situation. It's like, what's she going to do? Like, wake up and say, oh, well, yeah, that's true. I am a little bit Trump deranged. It's a good point, defense. You're right. Look, again, we'll come back here. We'll be very surprised, okay, Jack, if she comes back out and says, you know what? I've had an epiphany. In fact, I am going to recuse myself. We'd have to say, man, that's pretty fair and impartial, wouldn't it? If she recuses herself. Wow, she actually got it. Likelihood of that happening, probably zero, right? I'm going to guess she's going to say she's fine, perfectly fine. And thanks for considering it. But then you can also see the consequence of this, right? After you blast the judge and after you insert that little needling sentence where you say, hey, not only is he still free judge right now until she sentences him, but he's also leading in the polls. So now that judge is going to rule on all of your other motions, your motions in limine, any extensions, continuances, accelerations, whatever you do, she's going to rule on it from now on, if she doesn't recuse herself. So you've just angered the judge and, called her a biased partisan hack. And now she's your presiding judge throughout the rest of the case. It's like, it's a bizarre system. And, I'll be surprised if she recuses herself. I just can't believe she's going to do it. This is like the big debut. This is like playing in the Super Bowl. She's excited as can be. Going to be Judge Chutkan, the woman who incarcerates Trump or gets close. And how could you give that up? She's going to really try to make it stick. Jack, thank you for the very generous dono on this lovely morning. I hope you're having a beautiful week. I appreciate your support here and for being a great member. We've got Chris says, that's right. She shouldn't give her opinions. Well, not on stuff that's not before her, certainly. If Trump is being sentenced in front of her, then she can comment about Trump being sentenced. But that was not the case. And Chris, been a member for 1 month, my friend. Welcome, Chris. The first month is the hardest. It gets easier from there. Thanks for being a member. I appreciate you. Chris says, please like and subscribe and appreciate all of you reading this and are here. Thanks, Robert. What a nice comment, Chris. So, Chris, I encourage and endorse this message. I endorse this message. Please like and subscribe to this video. Appreciate all of you reading this and that you're here. Thanks, Robert. Thank you, Chris. And thanks for being a member. I approve this message. We have another one. Oh, we're going to get used to that again. It's going to be campaign season. Voice says, did you ever use the Wayback Machine to look up the Wall Street Journal, a coup of Pelosi's own, an article I mentioned? Is that article not around anymore? So I think I remember reading that article. If it's the same article, I think I remember reading it. There was a Times article that said there was a Times article that talked about, I think, the labor unions that were really responsible for orchestrating a lot of the 2020 activities. I think I read that article too, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Voice. Fred says, she won't recuse, but she can be removed, correct? By whom? She could be impeached or something, but I also think that's another long shot. She could recuse herself, but I don't think she's going to do that. Brian is here, says, if Chutkan doesn't recuse herself and Trump is found guilty, can the case be overturned with prejudice on appeal so they can't retry him for this BS political witch hunt? So that would be the argument, but here's the thing. It's like, what I expect the judge to say is that there's no, concrete bias. There's no, actual bias in this case. And that anything so at the end of Trump's trial, yes, he could appeal a bunch of issues, right? He'll appeal, and he probably will after they convict him. He'll appeal a bunch of stuff. In that, I think judicial bias would be one of them. But she'll say that I don't need to be recused until I demonstrate actual bias. And then she's probably going to make herself the trigger point for the recusal on actual bias. So he could appeal it. And I think that it depends on the nature of the appeal, right? If there was some prejudice in the trial, I would argue that trial was a mistrial and that prejudice attached after the jury was impaneled and that there should not be a retrial. So that would be my take on it. But the first line that we have to get over is whether she's going to recuse herself or not. And I'm not so sure that she will. F1 says, talk about the Edwin Meese lawsuit against Fannie. I have not heard of that one, F1. Edwin Meese is suing Big Fannie. Yeah, somebody said they might have found the plane in Big Fannie. Is that true? Did it land somewhere near her or on her? Edwin Meese is suing Fannie, huh? I'm not sure what that one's all about. Yeah, AG, interesting. Okay, Jeffrey Clark seeking removal, Meese. Interesting. Okay, I pulled it up. Thank you for that, F1. I'll keep it on my radar. Thanks for sending it in and flagging it for me. Hey, the Rubos are here. Says justice.gov. What's up, the Rubos? Have you gotten your salt at rubosaltshop.com? By the way, we love the Rubos in our community. rubosaltshop.com. Get your salt. Says justice.gov. Chinese nationals admit to stealing sensitive military program documents from 2016. Perhaps that's why the F-35 went missing, hacked by the CCP. It's a good question. And so first of all, I don't believe anything that they're telling us. How do you lose an $80 million plane? I know it's a stealth plane and all of that, but you just lose it and they just eject the pilot and then what happens to it? It's a weird thing. Even it's it's not on radar. It's weird things. And the fact that they grounded everybody else leads me to believe that it might not be just a freak accident. Maybe there's something more systemic that happened, like something triggered something. There was some sort of a mistake. Something went wrong. But I don't know. I would imagine the Rubos that the Chinese would love to have an F-35. Just hijack it. And we were joking this morning on our member stream, maybe the spy balloon reached down and just picked it up. Like one of those claws at a pizza shop, and just moved it out of there. I don't know. But good to see you. The Rubos. We got Debbie Marie says, really good show as always, but today was fun to laugh at the absurdity. It's good. I'm glad you're laughing, Debbie Marie. Today was a fun one. There is a lot of absurdity to laugh at. And It's always better to laugh than the alternative. Good to see you, Debbie. Thanks for being over on Locals. Salty is here. Says Pelosi did not want the National Guard because she was afraid that they wouldn't be loyal to her. She was afraid that any soldiers would be loyal to Trump. I sort of remember hearing that. That's an interesting take, Salty. That's why she didn't want them around. But then she's going to blame Trump for not having the soldiers there. That feels like a total insane position to take. But that makes sense for Nancy Pelosi. Like, did they really think Trump was going to take over the country with the soldiers? It's kind of psychoness, psychopathy. Good to see you, Salty. We had this one from Nick. Nick S. is in the house, says, Dems never put together a Clean the Earth Day. That's how you climate change crap. Let's go, Brandon. Free Trump. They never did put together a Clean the Earth Day. I think that they're really polluting it. I mean, they kind of just like block roads and stuff, which causes more pollution because people have to wait. I don't know that their plans are working out all that well. B-Man says, I sure don't want Biden to resign because look who's next. Also, I wish they'd subpoena Ray Epps. Yeah, maybe that'll happen at some point. We don't know. And there was another story that I flagged about somebody else who took a plea deal that was never even charged, and it never hit the public dockets. In other words, there's like another Ray Epps. Okay, there's another person who's very much like Ray Epps that they're flying under the radar. There's like a part 2. And I have that saved somewhere. But we'll look into that. But yes, I also don't want Biden to resign. I think Biden's amazing, actually. Like, I think he's the best candidate for the Democrats. Country's just going through a little bit of a rocky time right now. Biden's going to be great. We definitely want him to be the Democratic candidate. Definitely. Okay. Don't swap him out for Newsom or for Michelle or anybody. He's great. He's got a few more years left in him. I think he's coming back. He's going to be on the upswing for the next election. We definitely want to keep Joe. All right. We got Operation Paperclip. Says military U.S. jets use parts made in CCP. Greenest. Smart way to win the war without firing a shot. Look to Benedict Arnold, military contractors. That is true. And I've read stories about this. Like the Chinese will pay, ex-pilots, like not even, it's a lot of money, but like not that much to like sell your country out. Like $250,000 a year, like $300,000 a year. They'll pay these ex-pilots. I think it's happening to Britain too. They're paying a bunch of ex-UK pilots to go train the Chinese how to beat UK and American planes. It's crazy. And they're getting paid like not a lot. Not that really matters, but it's like, wow, you sold out. You're selling out your country for like $250,000. Amazing. Formers here says, I can't wait until the Bowser letter gets entered into evidence. The Muriel Bowser letter. Should be nice when that one goes through. MAGA hat stays. Says DeSantis got owned by Fetterman. Oh, yeah. Fetterman says he posted something on the Twitters. And Fetterman is... somebody else is tweeting for him, I think, out there. We've got... what else did we have here? Oh, my chat just jumped. What's up? This one is coming in from Jack Mack. Says, sorry about the speech to text typo, Rob. Pelosi is the queen of projection. I think, I think it seemed flawless to me, Jack. I appreciate it. Didn't even notice. Looked beautiful. Pelosi is the queen of projection. The Democrats are. They all are. They say, like, they impeached Trump for making a phone call to investigate their crimes. Trump calls in to investigate the Ukraine crimes that the Biden crime family committed. They impeached Trump for calling to investigate the crimes. Then they say he's corrupt. You're like, what? He was calling to investigate your corruption on a perfect phone call. MAGA hat stays. Says Romney sent a text to Mitch suggesting that they need the National Guard, but cautioned Trump was in charge of them. Complete Blue Anon conspiracy theory. That's from MAGA hat stays. I don't think I saw that one. I definitely saw one from Mitt to McConnell saying, you better, get things in order over there because you could be under attack. And I don't think that McConnell really heeded that warning or even actually responded to Mitt, if I remember that story correctly. But thank you for sending that one in. MAGA hat stays. Let's see what's going on over with our friends on X. We got 9 people watching on X. That's almost 10. If we hit double digits, I don't know. Elon is probably going to give me a call if we hit 10 viewers. So 10 on a Monday. We got 9 viewers. Okay, let's see who are here. It's probably out of control in the comments section. What do we have here? We got Fred Pedamonte. We got Danny McWilliams. We've got, hey, we got an order with code Robert from Chris. Chris is code Roberting this puppy out. Good for you, my friend. Get your field of greens. It's delicious. It's nutritious, and you're going to look amazing. O'Nelly says, watching on YouTube, just here to boost the numbers. Great show once again. Hey, thanks, O'Nelly, for helping us out. Oh, we have a slightly used F-35 is available on eBay now. This morning, we were thinking if we could... This morning, the F-35 that we found on eBay was $80 million. But that might have been a new one. We were seeing if we could crowdsource, if the Watcher fam could crowdsource $80 million so we could go buy a jet. Because I think if we had a jet, we could do some pretty cool stuff together. But this one looks like it's slightly used. So was this, you want to check the jet facts on this to see if it was involved in an accident. You're going to want to talk to the prior owner of this one. This one feels like it's like $50 million, a little light. All right, so see if this one was involved in a crash. But it's a good deal. In this one we could afford a lot more likely than the $80 million version. So check to make sure it wasn't in an accident. Danny says, Rob, I always down on lawyers, but you give me hope that there is still hope in the law. Well, thanks, Danny. You know, there are some shady lawyers out there, no doubt about it. There's some also very good lawyers out there. And we're grateful for all the amazing lawyers out there fighting the good fight. Oh, no. I think we know what happened to the airplane. I know why it crashed. Here's why. Hunter. Oh, man, he's everywhere. He's even in the airplane. Oh, man. All right, so that is from... All right, we got Charlene saying, great show. We've got George says, hey, George, thank you for this. Says, so thankful for watching The Watchers. Great job, as usual. Did Hunter's lawyers already disclose all his tax information and more in his court filing? I don't think they did. That was Congress that really did most of that. I think after the Ways and Means Committee released a bunch of stuff. Phil Reno says, the regime said that gun owners would need F-15s and nukes to take on the government. Just lost an F-35. Yeah, so the people now. All right, how many F-35s does the government have? How many F-35s do the people have? 50-1, but we're catching up. All we need is another 49 F-35s. Then it's a fair fight, guys. All right, so shout out to our friends over on Twitter for the fun memes and for the good conversation. That is it. We're up to 20 viewers now on Twitter. Oh my gosh, where's Elon? All right, somebody get Elon. Here we are. All right, act like you've been here before, Rob. Act like you've been here. Hey, everybody, welcome to my Twitter page. Thanks for following me. All right, so shout out to our friends on Twitter, on the X. Good to see everybody over there. I think my page is probably broken now since we have 20 people over there. Out of control. All right, and so we are going to leave it there, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going over to our members-only after party, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to hang out for a bit. We're going to debrief everything we just talked about. We're going to hit members-only comments, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Members, if you're a YouTube member, join us. Just grab the Telegram link. It's a private link in the community tab section on YouTube. Just scroll over there, find the Telegram link. We'll see you over there. Also, get your field of greens, my friends, so you're healthy and fortified and nutrified. And don't forget to use code Robert when you check out, like our friend on the X did. We also had Former drop this one. Says, World War II, the Germans utilized slave labor in war production factories. Prisoners double and triple loaded random ammunition, lengthened oil dipsticks on tanks, and sabotaged everything they could get their hands on. Interesting little take there from Former. Interesting. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Also, want to thank our mods and our meme smiths for modding down the fort for us on the day. Big thank yous go out to Donut Mind Me for modding down and clipping away for us on this lovely day. We've got, starting at the bottom, our friend John McGarvey in the house. Donut, mind me. We've got Dog Digger, Janek 909. John Allen's in the house. Zach Nichols, Beyond Geostars, our friend Zulu, Ronnie Cole, Playing Hooky, K-Bean, and Vienticus Prime. I think he's got game night or something tonight. We miss you, V. Hopefully everybody is having a good time. We have a big appreciation for our mods. Thank you to the mods for keeping things nice and orderly. Also, shout out to our meme smiths, Nathan N810, Jigum Geegum over on Locals, and our friend Sleepy Dog Lee on the Twitters. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Members, stick around. We'll be back to do our debrief as per usual. Otherwise, my friends, it's it for the day. It's going to be a busy week. We've got a lot of stuff cooking. We already heard Merrick Garland's coming out here on Wednesday. Subpoenas to Elvis Chan due by Friday. It's going to be fun. Tomorrow's a Tuesday, and we'll be back to get into it all again. And I hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.